guys, welcome back to my channel. My name is Michelle and I am the creator behind Lily Rose Craft Room. And for today's video, we are going to be using hydro sublimation sheets to sublimate an entire 40-ounce tumbler and a 20-ounce skinny using our Craft Express sublimation oven. But before we get started, if you haven't already, hit that subscribe button and turn on the notifications bell so you guys don't miss out on any new videos. All right, let's get started. Alright, so to get started, these are the hydro sublimation transfers that we're going to be using, and they are from Craft Express. This one right here is called Green Tropic Leaves, and here in the back you can see like a visual of what it would look like on a 40 ounce, and this is the one that we're going to use for the 40 ounce. Next we have the one that we're going to be using for our 20 ounce skinny, and this one is called Blue Zebra. And this one is also really pretty. It's blue and it has a zebra pattern, and it also kind of looks like galaxy. I could see like if there's stars or like a splash marble effect. So this one, I know it's gonna be really pretty. So this is the 40-ounce tumbler that we're gonna be using. It's a sublimation tumbler, and this is also from Craft Express. It has a screw-on lid. And what we're gonna do is we are going to remove the handle. So it has two little screws, and we're simply just going to unscrew it with a screwdriver. And the reason why we're removing it is because we're gonna be doing a full wrap, and I don't want the handles to be in the way. Make sure you put your handle in a safe place so you don't lose the screws. Next, I like to get a lint roller and I roll it around the cup. That way it picks up any fuzzies or lint that's stuck on the cup. Next, we're gonna need a little container of water because we're gonna be using the hydro sublimation. And if you didn't know, hydro means water. So we're gonna be rubbing water on the sublimation transfers. I also wanna make this very clear that you're only allowed to use the water on the hydro sublimation transfers. So no, you cannot use water on like a regular sublimation paper. That will not work. It'll make your inks bleed and it'll just become a mess. So do not use water on regular sublimation paper. So I just opened the tube of the sublimation transfers and it came with instructions. But the cool thing about these instructions is that it also has visual instructions. So for people like me, I'm more of a visual learner. So for that to be included in the instructions, I really appreciate that. I also see that I need heat resistant string, and I have some, but I'm not going to be using that. I'm going to be using tape because I feel like it will give me better grip. I was surprised to see how thin the sublimation transfer was. It almost feels like, you know, like that tissue paper that you use like when you're wrapping a gift or when you put it inside the gift bag. That tissue paper. So it was really thin like that. I was expecting it more to be like the sublimation papers that I print, but no. This is very thin, and it's because when you wet it, it's easier to mold to your cup. So I'm just going to unravel a piece and I'm going to measure it to size, and then I'm going to cut it. I also noticed that this roll is super thick, and I checked the measurements of this. So it's a 15 inches by 40 feet. So that's a lot of sublimation. Next, on the bottom piece, it has a white line. So I'm just going to trim that off because I don't want that to somehow end up on my tumbler. Next, I'm going to start preheating my sublimation oven. So I'm just going to tap the little temperature, and it's going to be 385 degrees. And once I set that, I'm going to tap on the time, and I'm going to set it to 8 minutes. And this oven is from Craft Express, and it's a 12-liter sublimation oven. Now while the oven is preheating, we're going to wrap our tumbler with the sublimation transfer. So to apply on the water, I'm going to be using this large wide paintbrush, and we're simply just going to dip the tip of it in the water, and we're going to lightly brush all over the paper. And we don't want to soak the paper, we just want to get it wet enough that it's easy to mold. Next, I'm going to put my tumbler in the center of my paper, and then I'm going to wrap it halfway, and I'm going to push a hole through the paper. That way we're able to get the whole sublimation print on the tumbler. And if it's a little bit hard to push, you just got to soak the paper a little bit more and then push a little harder, and the paper would just rip right through. And if you feel like you need a little bit more water, like if the paper is still a little stiff, you can go ahead and add more water. Next, I don't want the paper to overlap too much. just a little tiny bit, so I'm just going to cut a little piece off so it's not overlapping too much. Also, you want to make sure to strategically place that seam where the handle is going to be. That way it's a little more hidden. Since I was taking a little while wrapping the tumbler, the paper started to dry a little bit. I also had the window open, and I'm just adding a little bit more water. And don't worry if you add more water or if you're taking a long time, the ink is not going to smudge. That was my initial thought. If I put water, it's going to smudge. No, you're good. It's not going to smudge. So now I'm going to wrap the tumbler with the sublimation paper. So I'm kind of just like trying to get the wrinkles out. I'm tugging it a little bit, smoothing it out. If you guys decide to try this, don't pull too hard because you might rip it. Luckily, that didn't happen to me. So you could just kind of like play around with it. And also, this wrap is very forgiving. There is a lot going on with this pattern, a lot of leaves. So if you have like a little wrinkle, you're not even going to be able to tell. So I did leave a little overlap in the middle. So once I overlapped it again, I pushed the holes inside the paper and I just cut the excess so it's not too much overlap. And then I tucked the paper in at the top just so I can work at the bottom, but I'm going to be cutting it off later. So I'm just going to work my way down to the cup. And where that opening is, I simply opened the flap and then I kind of like rotated the paper a little bit just so I could get the least wrinkles. And since the bottom is a lot smaller than the top, I used some scissors and I cut some excess just for that bottom piece. If you guys do decide to do a project like this, you do want to make sure to take your time and also improvise. I started making like little slits on the tumbler, that way it can fit better like a puzzle piece. So just here and there when you feel like you need to cut it, go ahead and cut it so it can fit right. Next, I wanted the bottom of the cup covered also, so I started making slits on the paper and just folding it on the bottom. And I know the bottom was going to be a little bit difficult. I didn't expect the bottom to come out perfect just because when you're sublimating, you need pressure. And then I wasn't able to get any pressure at the bottom. So I just overlapped them on top of each other just so it can have some color. So this is the way I did the bottom. And then I also added some more water. That way the papers can get a little bit more soggy and get stuck together. So this is the part now that it called for the heat resistant string, but I decided to use the heat resistant tape better just because I felt like the string was gonna roll off and I really needed a lot of pressure where that curve is. And I felt I was able to wrap the tape around tighter than I would be able with a string. So I just used some heat resistant tape and I went over, around, and around just so it's really touching that curve. Next, I'm just pulling out the paper that we had tucked in inside the tumbler. So we're just going to cut it as close to the edge as possible. Next, we're going to use some sublimation shrink film to wrap around the tumbler, and when this shrinks, it gives the tumbler a big hug. So this is what it's gonna give the pressure with. And I didn't realize until I started filming this that I had the wrong shrink film. So this one was a little bit too small, but we still made it work. When I link them in the description below, I'll make sure I put the correct one. That way you're able to put it all without any problems. So since mine didn't fit, I'm gonna grab another shrink film and I'm just going to feed it through the top. And like I said, I had the wrong ones, but I'm going to link the correct ones in the description below. That way when you guys try this out, you guys will be able to put it on with ease because the other ones are a little bit bigger. And then I had too much of the shrink film on the top, so I just cut some off because I didn't want too much hanging. And then next, I'm just gonna grab a heat gun and I'm going to heat up the shrink film, but I'm not gonna shrink it up all the way. I'm just trying to like get the edges right. And then I'm going to put it in the oven and let it shrink more in there. Next, we're gonna open up the oven and just carefully put it inside and make sure don't touch anything in there because it's very hot. And then we're gonna press start. And the degrees that we're cooking it at is at 385 degrees for 8 minutes. And as you can see, once I opened up my oven, the temperature went down a lot. One, because my room is very cold, and two, because we opened up that tiny little door. So it's gonna work its way back up to 385 degrees and then it's gonna start the countdown at 8 minutes. Once it's done, it makes a beeping noise, so we're going to open it and grab it with some silicone gloves because it is going to be very hot. I let the tumbler cool down and then I rip everything off, and I'm using scissors, but I'm being very careful not to scratch the tumbler. And here I am revealing the tumbler, and I was so surprised that there was blue in there, and I did not see any blue when I was looking at the sublimation transfers, but I saw blue and I was like, whoa. And the colors are very vibrant. Here's a finished look of this tumbler. There's very minimal ghosting on the curve, so next time we just gotta wrap it up a little bit tighter. And the wrinkles, you can barely even see them, and like I said, this wrap is very forgiving. Like you can barely tell what's wrong. And the bottom of the tumbler, I did expect it to be like that because we didn't have any pressure at the bottom. Next, we're gonna wrap our 20-ounce skinny tumbler with the blue Zebra Hydro Sublimation Transfer. And this one's gonna go a lot quicker because there is no curves on this skinny straight tumbler. It's just completely straight and it's an easy wrap. And then same like the other paper, we're just going to grab our brush and we're going to brush on the water. And then we're going to grab our sublimation tumbler and we're going to roll the lint roller over it just to get off any fuzzies. And then after that's done, we're going to place it on our paper and wrap it on. And I don't want too much of a wrap around, so we're just going to cut off the excess. And these straight tumblers are so easy, you literally just gotta roll it and you're done. Next, I'm just going to cut off the excess on the top of the tumbler. And then for the bottom piece, I just cut out a little square and I wet it. And I just placed it on the bottom, and just like the other one, I don't expect this one to be perfect. I just don't want it to be completely white, so just a little bit of color is better than nothing. So I'm just placing it on the top just like that, and I'm cutting around it so it could just be like a little circle for the bottom. And then after that, I'm just going to leave it as it is like that, and then I'm going to put the shrink film over this one. So the shrink film is able to just slide right into this one because it's smaller, and I had the wrong ones for the other ones. So now that the shrink film is on, I'm going to use my heat gun to just shrink it a little bit, and then I'm just gonna put it into the oven and let it shrink some more in there. We're gonna use the same temperature as we did for the last tumbler, so it's going to be 385 degrees Fahrenheit for 8 minutes. This oven keeps the previous memory placed, so we're just going to press the play button and it's gonna start the timer. Once our 8 minutes is up, it's going to beep and it's going to say end. So with gloves, you want to take out the tumbler and let it cool down before we peel it off. Now that it's cool to the touch, I'm just going to rip everything right off. And you can also peel it when it's hot, but you got to use gloves and the tools. It's just easier for me to just wait until it's completely cool and I'm able to use my hands and my fingers. And here I am opening it up, and I was so surprised the second time also because I didn't know there was purple in there too. So like I said, these colors come out super vibrant, and that seam is right there and you can even barely see the seam. And here's the bottom. Like I said, I didn't expect it to come out perfect because there's no pressure, but it's better than it just being plain white. I really loved how this one came out. I just kept staring at it like, wow. Just the colors are it's just wow, that's all I can say. And like always, here is the finished look. As you can see on the paper, the blue was not even noticeable until it actually cooked in the oven. As you can see the blue right there, but the blue on the tumbler, once it was cooked, like it just became super vibrant and super bright. And I was surprised to see blue there. I was like, what? I didn't even know there was blue. And here is the zebra one, and with this one I didn't even know there was purple in there. So you guys hear in my voice how excited I was to see like the hidden colors in there. They really came out super pretty, and the colors, especially right here, they're just very vibrant. The seam is right there, but you can't even tell. Alright guys, that is it for today's video. If you guys watched until the end, thank you so much. Show me by putting green hearts and blue hearts in the comments below. Also, I'd love to know which tumbler you like best. Did you like the green one or the zebra one? Also, if you haven't already, remember subscribe to my channel. I upload every Tuesdays and Thursdays. Don't forget to comment, like, share. It really helps my channel grow. I'll see you guys in the next one. Bye!